Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for Ask the Experts. My name is Jeff Niebaum, and I'm with your Better Business Bureau. On today's episode, we are going to discuss on how to hold a successful video meeting. And with me today, I have two experts that I know that are gurus when it comes to holding video meetings. And we have Melanie McGovern from the Better Business Bureau in Buffalo, New York. And we have Ron Woerner, Chief Security Evangelist from Cyber-AAA. Melanie and Ron, thanks for joining us.
Hello.
Hello.
Today we're going to just kind of have a discussion, kind of an informal discussion to help people really hone in their skills when it comes to a video meeting. And Mel, I know you have been doing this for a few years now. And what is one tip right off the bat that you would suggest for people when hosting a video meeting?
Make sure the biggest thing that we at our BBB, we make sure that everybody's muted. So we use GoToWebinar so that an attendee can't just unmute themselves and jump into the middle of a presentation. But if you're on a platform where you have to self-mute, make sure before you even share your webcam or anything like that, mute yourself. Because nobody wants to hear kids running in the background, the TV on. I just shut my TV off actually, because I like a little bit of background noise when I'm working from home. And if you're not camera ready, if you're eating, don't flip your webcam on. I was on a call the other day where I was watching somebody eat a bowl of ravioli, and I'm like, boy, that looks good, but it's not something I want to see when we're about to do a meeting.
That's a great point. That is a very, very good point. And I'm actually making a mistake right now because I forgot to close out my email, and now I'm having dinging noises go on. So this is a live webinar that we're doing, and I'm making mistakes as I go as well. But yeah, so one thing I'm going to put out there is make sure your phone's off. I literally, this is our second take of this because my iWatch went off and called somebody. Thanks, Siri. And I didn't even know about it. So just make sure all your electronics are off before you even get onto the meeting, because again, nobody wants to hear the extra noises. So Ron, what about you? What's one tip right off the bat that you would give to people watching up there?
Oh, there are so many great ones you bring up about Siri, but if you have like a Google Home or an Amazon type of an assistant, know what you're talking about in the meeting. And if it's anything very sensitive to your organization or about your clients or customers, you might want to disconnect them. Because if you think about it, I can set off anybody's Google devices just by saying the words. And therefore, I can maybe get it to record for me. One other quick tip, we're almost forgetting when we start, is know who you've invited to the meeting. We're going through a situation right now with Zoom bombing, where people are getting into meetings and webinars who may not be invited and are disrupting them. So know who is invited to your meeting. Only invite those people. It's an open webinar. Require a registration. Provide a unique key for people to enter along with a password. So it's usually just some simple steps on how to best use the tool that you have at your availability.
Yep, that's why we use GoToWebinar, because we have the ability to edit the list of attendees. They're all automatically muted. There is no way for an attendee in GoToWebinar to unmute themselves. Especially, we've got a webinar coming up next week with very high-level officials from New York State, and they want the list. They want to make sure everybody's muted. So you want to take those steps so you don't have people unmuting themselves or jumping in and talking or saying something to disrupt your meeting. You're 100% right.
Very, very good points there. Very good points. Let's go to attire. A lot of people think they can just jump on a meeting, which is not the best approach to do. And I usually say, would you do that if you're meeting a person in real life? So Melanie, what do you usually do when you're getting ready for to host a meeting online?
Well, number one, I always do my hair. I'm spokesperson, so I'm on TV constantly, so I'm always what I call camera ready. We know a lot of people are working from home. I call it webinar chic now, where people are wearing ball caps and hoodies and AirPods. But you just want to make sure that there's nothing that's distracting. No like logo shirts or anything like that. nothing on the back wall. I was on a web chat yesterday, and somebody had this really weird artwork that I couldn't take my eyes off of. Like, what kind of, that's a weird picture. Why would you, make sure your background isn't distracting. I use my dining room, which is very boring, and you don't want to be in front of a window either. So I have a little bit of window, but not too much, because you don't want to be washed out. That's the biggest thing that I've seen with a lot of the groups I've been doing web chats with, people in front of their windows. They're not well lit. They're not, or they forget the cameras on and they start doing other things. Just always treat every camera and every microphone as if it's live.
You don't know who's behind you with the camera. I keep seeing these memes and videos out on Twitter, etc., where someone walks in. There was someone from Tampa, a reporter from Tampa, whose dad walked in while she was doing a live spot, and he was busy getting his shirt on. So time and time again, we are seeing this. So make sure you shut the door if possible to keep animals and children from disturbing your meeting. Having that space. But great tips about knowing what's behind you. It's like a loaded firearm, if you will, could always be live. Knowing who's on the other side. So it depends if this is more of a casual setting or something more professional. Something I taught to my 21-year-old son. I call it the rule of the suit coat. So, I'm just wearing my Nebraska shirt, because I'm a big Cornhusker fan. It depends. If I'm talking to the governor, I might just show the shirt. But if I really want to look professional, the law of the suit coat is you always have one ready. You throw one on, and all of a sudden, like Elon Musk, you look super professional.
Well, Ron, I have to agree with you, because I'm right there with you, buddy. I mean, that's the power of the suit coat, does wonders, and it just adds a level of professionalism. So, and again, it's all about who your audience is. If it's with your coworkers, that might be one thing. I mean, you still should look professional because it's in a professional setting. But Mel, as you said, you're going to have some pretty high level officials joining you for the webinar, so you definitely want to look your best. I mean, you never
know who's going to be watching too.
Right.
Yes, that's very true. That's very true. And you always have to remember you're representing your organization first and foremost. You're representing yourself and your organization. So when it comes to setting up, whether you're doing Zoom or webinar, GoToMeeting, how much do you practice? Ron, how much do you practice? Do you practice at all, or
yes.
What kind of your routine?
Well, first of all, you have to become familiar with the technology. There are so many different technologies, and they work similarly between GoToMeeting, Teams, Google Hangouts, Zoom, even Discord and Twitch now businesses are using. Those are traditional gaming platforms. So hop on and practice. Know what your camera is going to be doing with that particular platform. Know how the microphone is set up. How many meetings have you been to? And it's like, oh, I forgot to unmute, right?
Yes.
Or making sure the sound is proper. Making sure your camera is positioned well. Too many meetings I've seen like this.
Yep.
You're looking up somebody's nose.
Yep.
Just a little distracting. So get yourself a decent camera, as Mel mentioned, with lights, reasonable microphone. This one only cost me like $10 on Amazon. But yes, big problem I have with it, I just need to remember to take it off before I stand up.
I love this. I get a lot of this. Or I get this.
Yes.
Yep. Half it.
So center.
It's funny. I had a TV interview yesterday for one of the stations in Rochester, New York, and the reporter's like, "You're so well framed." I'm like, "Well, I do this all the time." So you want to make sure you're framing yourself. You're not like this or like this. Like there's the window. Or I just, that drives me nuts.
Yes.
And equipment is huge, as you were saying, Ron. I have these wonderful Bluetooth headphones. I just have to remember to charge them. That's I've heard people in the echo chambers with no mic on, or they're using their phone and there's interference. The biggest thing we were talking about, we had a webinar for some other BBBs a few days ago, and I said, we're all working at home, so not everybody has the bandwidth they have in the office. So if there's choppiness, if a phone's not, working in a certain room, move around. So that's why practice is so important. Move around, make sure your signal's working. If you have a presenter who's a novice, you want to definitely practice to make sure they know how to take control. If we have novice presenters, I'll run the PowerPoint. I will turn their mics on. So you want to have somebody, I always say, to produce your webinar, to just kind of watch that back end, keep an eye on questions, not let every question get through. There was the webinar we did last week with you gentlemen. There were a lot of questions that were repeats. So you don't want to just keep asking the same question over and over. So you definitely, want to have the right equipment and the right producer on with you as well.
A room moderator goes a long way to help watch that chat, because we are able to have these great chats now on the side and ask questions, which is you can't do in a regular presentation. So say you're at a keynote, it's not like everyone can raise their hand. It just gets too distracting. So there's a lot of benefits to this, but like everything else, it just needs to be managed. And how do you best utilize the tool?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so if you're kind of debating at home, like, oh, do I need a kind of a co-pilot? Absolutely have one.
Yes.
Just reach out to somebody in your office, or if it's somebody at home like your husband or wife, just to help you. That will go a long way, and attendees will be able to see it because it'll run more smoothly and be more streamlined and more professional at the end of the day.
And one more tip, if I can throw in there, Jeff, Mel kind of brought it up. Look at the camera. You want to stare into the middle dot of the camera. Make sure you're not distracted. It is very easy. Many of us have many windows, many monitors up. Focus like you would in a meeting. Would you do this in the meeting? Probably not. That shows you're not paying. Yeah, exactly. So, and if you do need to do that, you can put it in the chat. Ooh, 1 minute, BRB, all these acronyms. BRB, be right back. I need to answer this text. People get it.
Yeah.
And you just brought up chat, which is a great functionality that these online video platforms allow, because you can not only chat to everybody that's on your meeting, but you also, if you're just like, if you have organizers or presenters, they allow you to just talk to them as well. So you can kind of talk behind the scenes to let things run, again, more streamlined, more smoothly. So it just is overall, it's a better meeting.
So one other tip I have, again, learn the tool, learn its security and privacy settings, because most of them are wide open when you first start them. You want to make sure you're locking them down, again, as to who can enter, who can do what within chat. Can people share files within chat? Because that could be a way to spread malicious software, believe it or not. Make sure as you're chatting, the private chats, always assume someone else can read them. I've seen this where someone thinks they're chatting privately. Oh, this Jeff is a dud. It's like, oops, I just sent it to everybody. So be aware of the tool and how to best use it.
So one thing that we have kind of transitioned to, because we did hold a webinar on last Friday, and I know, Mel, you guys are holding a webinar as well, but you really got to, we're kind of trying to transition to like more, maybe shorter meetings, like 10-minute, 15-minute videos. I mean, and again, it depends on who you're having speak on your webinar. People, like your webinar coming up, Mel, is, I mean, people are going to tune into that because you have high-level officials. But if it's like what we're kind of doing here is just a 10-15-minute segment, short and sweet, something that you can not only use as a meeting, but also push out the social media, and if you're kind of doing Ask the Experts like we are, so you can use it in other forms. And so always, if you do a GoToWebinar, try to chop up the video content so you can use it, and it's more user-friendly, I guess you can say, to those who are going to go back and watch it. And that's exactly what I did with our webinar on Friday. Is I went back and I just re-recorded a little bit with our presenters. So we have 3 10-minute segments that people can watch on their own time, and they don't have to sit down at like a 45-minute time slot to kind of watch it all. But if it's a live webinar, I mean, that's definitely a way to go, especially if you have those high-profile people.
Great tips.
So for those who are presenting like a PowerPoint as well, what are your tips when it comes to PowerPoints and showing them on the web? Because it kind of relates to when you're doing an in-person meeting as well. So can I get your thoughts on what you would like to see on a PowerPoint when presenting on a video chat?
Not all caps, not all words. I want photos. I want engaging things to see. I'm a big fan of bullets, and then I talk. I like to stop and take questions in the middle, so it keeps people like on their toes. And I tell people, hey, I'm gonna take questions as they come in, so get your questions ready. I have my producer person, reading the questions. Hey, Melanie, we got a question from Syracuse, or blah 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 wants to know, how do I ask for customer reviews? So I even live presentations, I take questions. So I keep the slides really engaging. I like to make people laugh. I have a slide in one of my online reputation management presentations that it's a picture of a Google map with a word bubble that says this place sucks. So, people love that slide. They're like, they laugh, they're more engaged. So I'm not a big fan of PowerPoints that are all words. I like to put photos in there, just something that people can focus on. We decided going forward that we're going to have the video on of the presenter because I find I'm more engaged when I'm watching somebody talk. If I'm just listening and seeing a PowerPoint, I'll start grabbing phones, I'll start doing other things. So we're going to add that video element in as well.
So the style is actually called Presentation Zen. You can read the book by Gar Reynolds, where you're using images rather than a lot of words to portray the feeling. We want to be telling stories as a part of this, because people relate to stories, not to a lot of statistics. One thing that's a pet peeve for me is when they have a lot of statistics, metrics on the slide, and it's 10-point font, and oh, I'm sorry, no one can actually read this. If no one can read it, then maybe don't show it or provide it as a separate handout. Guy Kawasaki has a nice, 10-20-30 rule. No more than 10 slides, no more than 20 minutes, and no smaller than 30-point font, and really no more than 3, maybe 5 lines of bullets at the most, because you want people to focus on you, not on reading your slides.
You want to be the expert. You don't want to just have everybody reading your slides because, again, then people get distracted. They're just reading the slides, not paying attention to you. And that's the purpose of a video meeting. Mm-hmm. So you can see face to face, just like if you were sitting down across a desk or a table. So you can talk face to face and really connect with somebody and portray yourself as an expert.
Exactly, and don't have those distracting backgrounds. Some people like to get really fancy with animations, etc. Again, keep it simple, keep it easy. That way people aren't distracted. They're here to hear you and see you, not to read PowerPoints.
Yeah. Well, and going back, that's where practice really does pay off. Like you can set up your own meeting where you can record yourself and kind of run through it so you can see what you look like. I'm a big proponent of that, and I do that as well, just because, again, I'm representing my organization, myself as a professional, and I want people to be able to connect with that and really be able to see that when I do my presentation. So I definitely practice a good hour before the actual presentation happens.
Practice and get feedback from somebody on it. Hey, what did I do well, and what can I do better?
That's a great point. That's a great point. Well, in wrapping up, because we want to keep this short again, what is one other tip that you would give to our audience right now? Mel?
This is the way of the world now. I'm kind of over people saying, I don't know how to use this technology. Take a few minutes, go on YouTube, watch some videos. There's probably videos on how to do a Google Hangout, how to do a Zoom meeting, how to do a GoToMeeting, how to do a GoToWebinar. We just had a conference call with an organization we belong to, and it was a literal conference call, and it was a mess. People were talking, it was loud, it was distracting. If it were a computer audio call, a video call, that impresses people. So if you don't know how to do this stuff, take some time on your schedule, block off an hour, start watching tutorials, ask questions. There's a live chat bot on GoToWebinar that will help you walk through it. So just education is key at this point, because this is how we meet each other now. So yep. The excuse of I don't know how to do this, I don't like that anymore.
No, I 100% agree, and I think even as we move back into the more traditional office sense, and we're back in our cubicles or our offices, we're still going to use video meetings more than we ever have because that's what we're used to now. So it's not like we're just doing this now because of the coronavirus crisis and everybody's working from home. As soon as we transition back into a normal kind of office setting, we're going to use video chats because that's what we're kind of gung-ho about and we're excited about. So you definitely, it's like when that new cell phone comes out. Do you really want to upgrade, or do you want to keep with your old self? You got to upgrade. You just got to jump in it because everybody's doing the same thing. Obviously, you're going to have experts that are really good at what they do, but that's because they just took chances and they really studied up and got educated on how to become the best. Ron, what is one final tip from you that you would have for our viewers?
Echoing what Mel said regarding know how to use the technology, mute yourself during the meeting. So I'm going to have a few different tips through this. If you're not actively speaking, go ahead and mute yourself, and that way you don't have background noise. Be aware of where the camera is. Know how the technology can be secured because there's so many settings. This is true whether you're using, say, Facebook Live for meetings, which can be used for webinars. I know a lot of groups, or Google Hangouts, or even creating YouTube or Twitter chats, etc. Learn how to best use that technology, taking that 5 minutes. And then if you have questions, reach out for help. And that's where I'm going to plug the area BBBs. They have a lot of resources for them and around them and to help their clients and people. So if you find that you're not sure how to use the technology, find someone who does. Say, hey, can you sit down and mentor me on how to best use this? Lots of people available to help. We're in a great new age. It's hard to say, coronavirus, how can this be? We're showing now the convenience of these online meetings. It's saving time, money, resources. Don't need to spend time driving into an office for this. So let's leverage the technology we have and use it to its best capabilities.
Thank you for reminding me that I have to drive my car this week.
Yes, I forget that too.
I agree 100% with both your points. And the only thing I would like to add is that make sure you record all your webinars or your GoToMeetings or your Zooms, because you can also use this to push out on your social media pages. It's just not a meeting.
There's no sensitive information that's covered. If it's an internal meeting where there's proprietary client information. Sorry, Jeff, I had to throw that out there.
Yeah,
recorded. No, someone else can be recording it. Anyone on the far ends could be recording. So you might want to just announce that in the meeting, whether it should be recorded or not.
Yep, so definitely check with your presenters beforehand to make sure that they're okay with you recording it, that there is no sensitive information. Warn them that somebody might be recording it outside of your realm, and so you just got to be prepared for that. And the biggest thing is things go wrong. Technology doesn't always work as well as we wanted it to. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing when it does work, but things come up and things happen. I mean, in our webinar on Friday, one of our presenters, you could see her, but you couldn't hear her. So make sure you really have that person in place to really just move it along and say, sorry for the technical glitch, let's go on to our next presenter. And just be prepared for something to happen, because chances are it's going to happen just because it's technology.
The Boy Scout motto, be prepared.
Well, it's like I said in our one webinar, I said, if you're on your cell phone, go to a different part of your house. If you can't hear, I've got 24 people on who can hear. I have one person who can't hear. It's, is it operator error? Who knows? But, you can troubleshoot on your own. You shouldn't be interrupting the whole webinar because you can't hear somebody. And I've been on webinars where I've been a participant and I've heard that people are just, I can't hear. Troubleshoot it. They're not going to stop the webinar to help you.
Yep. Great points. Great. Well, this has been fantastic. Melanie McGovern with the Better Business Bureau of Buffalo, New York, and Ron Woerner with Cyber-AAA. Thank you both for sitting down with me and giving some great advice for people that are maybe sitting at home and watching this, and hopefully they'll be able to hold a stronger, more professional, streamlined web meeting next time. So thank you both for joining me, and thank you guys for watching out there, and we will see you next time.